got in a pretty good repertory company in San Diego at the San Diego Rep. And, that's the Buddhists call it beginner's mind. I mean, that's the beauty of beginner's mind is you just don't necessarily feel like you can't do it at that stage of the game. As Tom Petty says, the future was wide open. I came in, I did a couple plays at the Rep. I got some good notices, and an agent saw me. Was totally luck, but I was ambitious. Passed on college. Had a chance to go to Juilliard, had a chance to go to Cal Arts, decided now I'm going to be an overnight success, and it's been a long night. I decided to jump in, and I had a lot of ambition and desire to do it, and I got the agent and started going on auditions and started booking some of them.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Adeptus On-Air. I am again your host, Mike Hoffman, and I am today joined by American actor, screenwriter, filmmaker, model, songwriter, and musician, Dean Simone. Dean, how are you today?
I'm doing good, Mike. How about yourself?
Good, good. One day when I'm doing my own bio, I want to be able to add the word model, but yeah, it hasn't happened so far. Fingers crossed one day.
Hey, there's plenty of time, Mike. You're a young man.
Yeah. Well, fingers crossed we can make that happen. But it is a pleasure having you on. As I was talking to you briefly about before we got started, I'm a little jealous you're out on the West Coast and probably some nice weather, and I'm stuck here in New Jersey. But you are New Jersey born and raised, correct?
I am. I absolutely am. Yeah. South Jersey. I grew up a fan of Philadelphia sports and hoagies and cheesesteaks and tasty cakes and all that South Jersey Philly stuff. So yeah, I'm an East Coast guy at heart.
So is it pork roll or Taylor ham?
Well, I don't eat much pork at all anymore, but at the time it was definitely Taylor ham.
Right. See, I think I was just across the border because I was pork roll.
There you go. All right, man. Well,
Yeah,
to make for lively conversation. Right.
it definitely does. And we were subs, not hoagies. So yeah, so there was a second difference right there. But I do appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for
So
having
no problem. So you've had a very interesting career, and I'm anxious to hear about it. And you've worked with some really big people, in the industry, from Pete Davidson, Seth Rogen, to David Milch, Mickey Rourke, Stephen Bochco, Billy Bob Thornton. So it seems like it's been a pretty fun run for you.
It has. It's been exciting, and at times it's frustrating, and it's a very difficult profession. But I mean, if it's in your heart to do it and it's what you want to do, it's what you do. And it's really let me meet a lot of interesting people from all sides of the both sides of the camera and all sides of entertainment. So yeah, I'm blessed. I feel very lucky to have met and worked with a lot of people I've worked with.
Did you have the bug to be an entertainer from the beginning, or is that something that you developed a little later on?
I think it was something I was always interested in from a young age. I mean, my parents are not in the arts, into that kind of thing. My dad was into business. He's a sales guy, and my mom was a banker. And I grew up pretty blue collar, and no, it really wasn't kind of part of our family discussions, but we always appreciated movies, and I think that music was in there, but for me, it was kind of my own thing. I mean, I just kind of glommed onto it at a pretty young age and decided it was something I liked to do, especially when sports, which was my first love, started to look bleak because I was small but slow, which is
Yeah.
not a good combination to move
No.
forward in
No.
sport.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, but I started playing guitar when I was 6. Uh,
Okay.
and I started acting professionally when I was just turned 18. So I've been doing it, a little
So did you
while.
start off doing the acting thing? Were you still on the East Coast, or you'd already ventured out west at that point?
It's the usual story. It's so funny that when I listen to interviews by famous actors or just working actors like myself, we all seem to have the same story where we seem to have this like one person in high school who sort of challenges us or asks us to do the school play, and it
Yeah.
was the exact same thing for me. Tom Hildebrand was my teacher, and he said, "Why don't you go out for the school play? And if you get in it, I'll give you the lead role, but you have to commit." And I did, and I got the bug. And literally within a year and a half, I was on the West Coast, doing television. So it went pretty fast.
So what was that first show in high school?
It was The Man Who Came to Dinner, and I played the man who came to dinner with the white beard and the high school
Uh-huh.
hair, white hairspray and stuff. But it was fun.
So
And
does the title of that actually talk about the storyline? Is it literally about just a man going to dinner, or is there more to it?
it's a really fun kind of comedic story. I think I'm trying to remember the name of the actor who made it famous on Broadway, and then did the role in the film. And Betty Davis was in it, and it was basically about this sort of like a feat critic who comes to this small Ohio town and gets stuck because he twists his ankle, and ending up dealing with all these like countrified people in this bucolic setting. And he's, of course, this jet setter from New York, and but he's got a heart of gold. So it's sort of the fish out of water story. But
Yeah.
I think George Kaufman wrote it. It's good. I mean, it's really well written. It's a heck of a funny, neat play to do right out of the gate. I mean, I was young, but I appreciated it. I was always somebody who loved old movies.
Mhm.
Um, I always loved old movies. In fact, to this day, if I get insomnia or I'm up late, I will put on whatever black and white film I can find, and that is my definitely my happy place.
You know, it's sad. If we think old movies right now, that's what you were coming. That's the movies that were coming out when you were 17.
I
So
know.
when I say a movie my age, my kids are like, I don't want to watch an old movie, and and we're talking like things like
Ferris
E.T.
Bueller's Day Off.
Right. You said that. That's the movie I've been getting trying. There's a few movies I've tried to get my kids to watch, and that's one of them. So I think it's just a classic. And they're like, I'm not watching that. That's like from the 80s. It's like, I'm like, but that's so funny. But I guess it's all perception. When you think about that, though, when you were 17, the movies that you wanted to watch were probably 30 or 40 years older.
Oh yeah,
And the movies you watched growing up were now 30, 40 years ago.
absolutely the case. There's a fantastic documentary out now called Breakdown 1975, and it talks about how which I mean I was aware of, but not in terms of the actual it being that year. But if you look at 1975 and the films that came out in 75, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. And the premise of the documentary is basically that it was the last time when cinema completely reflected what was going on in the world, and specifically in the country. And it's amazing the films that came out in 75. Point being, to your point, I was in eighth grade, I think, at that point. But when I remember, like, it just seemed like, oh, these were such fresh, new films. And, my parents let me go see any kind of film I wanted to see when I was a kid. They
Yeah.
were really minded about that stuff. But now, to your kid's point, films from the late 70s or the 80s, man, that's like that's
Yeah.
prehistoric, Mike. That's old stuff right there.
It's all stuff. Yeah. I mean, I just saw this thing, like a TikTok thing, and it basically said, if you were born in 1975, you've lived more of your life now in the 2000s than you did the 1900s.
Wow.
And when you think about that, just from that, which is kind of crazy, because I think of myself as I was born in the early 70s. So when you think about that, I don't. I think of myself as more as a 1900s kid, but in reality, I'm almost close to 50-50 at this point.
That's crazy. I never really thought about it in those terms, but yeah, and it's amazing how quick things are just moving and changing at this stage of the game. I mean, and this whole situation with AI and the whole conversation
Mhm.
that goes on about it, there's so much I wouldn't say, I mean, I understand the fear of it, and I understand where people are coming from with it.
Yeah.
I also do feel I had heard a quote that Pope Francis had made. he had a pretty good talk on AI, actually, believe it or not. And he was talking about how AI really is maybe getting vilified in a way that it shouldn't necessarily, because it is, when it's all said and done, a tool. The difference being is that it is a tool that can at some point make its own decisions for itself,
Yeah,
possibly. That's the slippery slope. But I
agree.
we're going to put that toothpaste back into the tube. So I think we better learn how to adapt, and and use it and move forward positively with it, because it's here to stay.
Yeah, no doubt. So you star in a show in high school, and
Yeah,
then a year later you're in California actually as a professional actor. That is
yeah,
not, again, the normal path that happens for most people. A lot of people are a theater person in all of high school. They're probably in 6 or 7 shows,
mhm,
from freshman year to high school, all the way through high school.
mhm.
And then maybe they'll go on to college and maybe do some more theater, or maybe they just move on and leave theater. So it's really uncanny for you with such limited exposure to it in high school, how a year later, so what's the decision? You've done one play and now it's like, okay, I want to do this for a living.
It was crazy. I did the play. My dad got transferred. I got accepted to UGA, which was at a time University of Georgia, where it was a very cool artsy place to go. It was when
Mhm.
B-52s were there, and REM and all that had just started happening, and it was a really hip place. And I was getting set to go. My dad got a job out here, and I was like, "Whoa, California!" We lived there briefly when I was younger, so I'm like, "I want to come back." Came back out here and literally got in a pretty good repertory company in San Diego at the San Diego Rep. And that's the Buddhists call it beginner's mind. I mean, that's the beauty of beginner's mind, is you just don't necessarily feel like you can't do it at that stage of the game. So, as Tom Petty says, the future was wide open. I came in, I did a couple plays at the Rep. I got some good notices, and an agent saw me. Was totally luck, but I was ambitious. Passed on college,
Mhm.
had a chance to go to Juilliard, had a chance to go to Cal Arts. Decided now I'm going to be an overnight success, and it's been a long night. It's still
Yeah.
fun, but I decided to jump in, and I had a lot of ambition and desire to do it, and I got the agent, and started going on auditions and started booking some of them.
So what was your first gig that you booked that you really said to yourself, okay, I'm having success here? Because I know people said at the beginning, you take whatever job you can get, you need the exposure, you need the experience, you need to start building your resume. But what was that one item that you said, okay, maybe not I've made it, because I'm sure you always feel like you never really made it yet. You always strive for that next bigger thing. But there had to be a moment when you're like, okay, I got this. I'm here and I'm here to stay.
I'm waiting for that to happen.
Okay, still?
I think most of us always feel that. I was listening to Jason Bateman talking about it, and talking about, feeling fear in between jobs and stuff like
Yeah,
that,
sure.
enormous and stuff. So I don't think you ever 100% get there, but what I got, the thing for me was when I got my SAG card on an incredible film opus called "They Call Me Bruce." That was one of probably the worst films ever made. But I got my SAG card out of it, and I remember getting my SAG card, just was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" And then I did like some sitcoms. Which the first one I was on, I was just horrible, and it was just such a weird experience. But it was, I mean, it was like, you know, on ABC at a time when there was only four networks, and it was a
Mhm.
pretty big deal to be on that. And
Of
yeah, it was called It Takes Two. And I actually at the time was hanging out a lot with Anthony Edwards, who ended up going to be
Yeah.
on ER and stuff, and Helen Hunt, who was I played her boyfriend on it, and yeah, I mean that I guess was the first time I was on national TV at that kind of a
Mhm.
level. I actually had lots of lines, and it was
Yeah.
like, this is something, and name
So,
was.
well, how long did that show last?
Well, I was only on an episode of that, but that show was on for I think 2 years. It had heavyweight people in it. Richard Crenna was in it, and Anthony was not as big as he got to be in ER, nor was Helen Hunt at that stage of the
Yeah.
game. And Patty Duke was in it.
Hmm.
Um, and it was a pretty big deal. I know it came in with a lot of fanfare. I think a lot of people expected it to go a bit further than it did, but
Yeah.
it was pretty big. And then I did a Facts of Life almost immediately following that, and I did better in that. And then I started just picking up TV stuff here and there. I got with William Morris.
Hmm.
Um, they sent me on a lot of really big jobs that I didn't book, but I remember this was at a time when, Sean Penn and Tom Cruise and these people were just breaking. And, I had some very big ones that I was very close to getting that I didn't get. And, it was a really heady time. And I was also playing in bands the whole time I was doing
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yep.
it's interesting. You just mentioned Facts of Life. The last podcast I recorded was actually with one of the original girls from the first two seasons of Facts of Life. So it's kind of funny you mentioned that.
Which girl?
So she played Sue Ann in seasons 1 through 3, actually.
Oh,
She was,
okay.
she was
Uh,
one of the original. She was, one of the blonde girls, played opposite, the Blair character and 2D Natalie. And
all right.
then when the show took a different direction, they kind of cut it down to 4 main girls. But she was one of the 67.
Yeah, that was the year when they cut it down to the four girls. That was the year that I was on it, where I played Nancy McKeon's boyfriend. So that,
Interesting.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, all those things kind of happened at once, and it was a pretty heady time to be
Mhm.
in town. I was taking a lot of really cool meetings with really big people, and
Yeah.
it seemed like it was just a question of days or hours or minutes before something was going to happen, and then it would go up the food chain and down it, and
Yeah.
I rode that.
So now we're several years later.
Mm-hmm.
You've co-written and co-produced and starred in a show, Game Day,
Mm-hmm.
available on Tubi, Apple Plus, and Amazon.
Yep.
You've had recurring roles in Adam McKay's Winning Time, which is HBO, correct?
Yep.
And that's where you played sports writing legend Jim Murray. And
Yeah.
then Craig Gillespie's film Dumb Money, and that's where you had some exposure to some big names as well: Pete Davidson, Seth Rogen, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Right.
So there's been some nice things of late.
Yeah, and I did a series that I thought was really terrific last year called Gringo Hunters. I had a recurring role in that. I have not heard if that's going to be picked up or not. As of now, I don't think it has been. It was Imagine Entertainment, so I did
Mhm.
that. And then last week, I did a really neat guest starring role in a looks like it's going to be a really great television show called R.J. Decker, and that's by the same writer who did Bad Monkey. I think the book was called Double Whammy when it came out, but really good people, and enjoyed doing that. I was in Florida last week shooting that, and yeah, it's been pretty good so far. There's definitely ups and downs, and you got to keep hustling, but it's the nature of the game. And I just it did another draft of a film that I've been wanting to make for the last 3 years since I did my last one. It's called Hidden Pieces,
Mhm.
and I'm starting to get that in motion to get that made, and I'm excited about it. And I'm considering directing that. I think I'm ready to try to do that at this stage of my life.
That's interesting. So
Yeah.
you talk about you get some, you lose some, and so forth. And I'm always fascinated by this because of insecurity and egos and things like that. Rejection isn't rare. Rejection's commonplace, and rejection's commonplace even for the top of the top. And you always hear people who says, "I was a finalist for this major role and it went to someone else." And these people are, like I said, elite.
Yep.
At what point, or is it ever to this point, to your other comment before, does rejection not feel personal?
That's a really good question, Mike. It depends on the day, and it depends on where I'm at.
Yeah.
I have very, very, very strong Catholic Taoist beliefs.
Hmm.
Sounds like a strange combination, but I do believe strongly that I and the Father are one, and you and the Father are one, and that we are one with God, and we do the right things, and I think that it goes as it should, and sometimes it does not go the way we want it to go, and I can roll with that. I'm able to do it. Sometimes it sucks,
Mhm.
and I feel like God, I would have been really right for this, or this was a really nice payday, and I really wish I would have gotten this one. And um, there are bad days. Sometimes my wife calls it Friday blues. I will definitely feel it on Friday, especially if I'm up for a few things and it didn't come through.
Yeah,
I feel it. So it doesn't go away, but what goes away, I would say, is the duration of the blues of it.
yeah,
And also I think that um you don't really go when you get something or people tell you, hey, you did a great job or great scene or whatever. You don't go like, oh, what a good boy am I. You
yeah.
just you take it as this is what I do. I've been doing it a long time, and I would hope that I have some abilities at it at this stage of the game. And then when it doesn't go good and you don't get it or whatever the situation might be, that you don't get down on yourself and feel like, oh God, I suck, and what's wrong with me, and am I doing the right thing? And you start to walk that razor's edge, and it's the right place to be. And I am fortunate that I've hit that spot at my life now, but it still hurts sometimes.
Oh, of course. Now, what are you more anxious to watch? Are you more anxious to watch something you just filmed and you want to see your work? Or do you want to see a part you didn't get to see how the other person's playing the part that you wanted?
Mike, you asked some of the finest questions I have gotten on these podcasts.
Well, look at that.
Seriously, that's a really good question. Okay. Watching myself is usually painful for me.
Mhm.
Uh, I just had an experience on something that I did, and I'm just I'm always hard on myself. So but I don't beat myself up, but I always expect more, and I always focus in on I wish I would have done that, or I didn't hit that beat, or would have liked to have done that. So sometimes watching myself, I don't rush to wash myself. Sometimes something will come out like Gringo Hunters, the stuff I did on that. I think I waited 2 months to watch it. So to
Yeah,
answer the question, I'm always more interested in seeing what other people do that got the role that I was up
yeah.
for. And I can almost tell you every single time that I see it, I feel like the person who got it nailed it and did a great job.
You
And
made the right decision.
I feel like good for them for getting it, and they're terrific in it. And I rarely, if ever, look at it and go, oh man, I would have done a better job than that person did. I always feel like I could have done a great job if I got it, but I see why they got it. They did terrific.
So you're a movie buff, like you said. Sometimes you watch old movies, late at night when you can't sleep or whatever. Are
Mhm.
you able to just be a fan of the movies and just watch a movie for the sheer entertainment of it, or are you watching it as a professional actor, aspiring director, and looking at it to from an area of wow, I love how they did that, or critiquing something that you would have done differently?
I definitely am able to watch it as a fan, but I also have such an immense, gigantic love for it that the only time that I really feel like I'm watching it with a jaundiced eye is if I feel that there's been a real drastic misstep in it, where I'm really like, oh wow, that really comes up and hits me. It's funny. Um, my wife always, because every time we watch stuff, I like, she's like, do you not like any actors' performances? Like, I'm a big fan of other actors. I know how hard it is to do it, and I rarely see an actor do something that I just don't think they really did a great job. I'm a big fan of my fellow actors, so I don't usually go to it with acting. Directing, there's just so many good directors, and they're just so good at what they do. I don't feel it with directing. Oddly, the thing that you know I less identify with, but maybe am the purest thing at, which is a writer, is the thing that does bother me the most when it's off. The writing will bother me sometimes if I think
Interesting.
something's amiss. But again, respect for writers too. I know how hard that is. But the only thing that I will notice, to your point, like from a professional standpoint, they go, is writing. especially when you see a film where there's like a parallel scene and it doesn't move the story forward. There's nothing that drives me more crazy than that in a movie. And that's one thing about the old movies, old for you and me, old movies, man.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, the black and white ones. Those
Right.
are so well crafted. There's
Mhm.
just there's no scenes that don't matter. Every
Right.
scene matters in those, and they really are just craftsmen at it.
It's so you mentioned you admire other actors. Who are some of your favorites right now in terms of, I don't want to say your favorites meaning you love their movies, but just what actors out there do you think, wow, they're the elite of the elite?
We would really need an hour for me to answer that question because there are so many. But I love Anthony Hopkins.
Okay.
I Daniel Day Lewis. I love Robert De Niro. I mean, he's retired now, but Jack Nicholson is just
Mhm.
amazing. There's just so many actors that I love. I think Timothy Chalamet is a terrific young actor. I love the work he's doing. Um, Gosh, the list really
Yeah.
just goes. Jeff Bridges, adore Jeff Bridges. Meryl Streep. What can you even say about Meryl Streep? She's absolutely brilliant beyond words. There's
One of
just
my favorite jokes ever from an award show, and I forget who was the host, and they said, Meryl Streep couldn't be here tonight. She's home with the flu. And the other host goes, and she was wonderful in it. You know, so you're one of those people that you can just sell anything you do.
yeah. I mean, I just watch her, and I love everything that she does. She's just great. I've been like I'm reading or I'm listening to actually the Charlie Sheen book right now, and which is really incredibly entertaining. And he's an interesting guy, and he's done some really amazing work. I know he went way off the deep end there for a while,
Yeah.
but just rewatched Platoon 2 nights
Mhm.
ago, and I hadn't
Yeah.
watched it in forever. Talking about what your kids would consider an ancient
Yeah.
history,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not so much for you and I. We were young guys when
Mhm.
that came out, and wow, it's so good. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's so well done,
The
man.
Netflix documentary about him is excellent also. If you haven't seen that.
Great. Yeah, I have seen
Yeah.
it. It's super good. Oh, and Al Pacino
Of course.
is be remiss. And just to say, my absolute favorite actor of all time is, as is most everybody that's our age range, and is Marlon Brando. I mean,
Okay.
Brando really, to me, he wrote the book.
Yeah. No. So in addition to all this, you are also the lead singer of the Smoking Cobras.
Yeah.
You performed throughout the world. You performed at Dodger Stadium, yeah, and the like. So is that something? So you started playing guitar. So kind of recap here. You started playing guitar. You went into one show. You went out west. You became an actor. You've been doing that for 30 years. And at the same point in time, I guess you maintained the love of your initial passion, which was the guitar,
Yeah.
uh, and so forth. So talk about your musical aspect of your career.
Well, I play with a couple of guys, three guys, a newer member of the band now who is fantastic, Mike, who I love, is a terrific player, and then but Tony and Kevin, I've been playing with for 15 years. We've been in the same band, and we played all over the world. We make money doing it, and we've played in front of thousands of people, and we've played in front of six people. We've done all of that stuff together, and I just love the band. We play oldies, but really we play them like we play them. It definitely has its own feel to it, and we're all really super big fans of like even though we were really young kids when it occurred, early '70s rock and roll, like the Stones at that stage of the game, or Led Zeppelin, or Alice Cooper or Van Halen, or any of those bands from that era. And we kind of have that sort of approach to these older oldies from the 50s and the 60s that we do. So it rocks pretty good, and people like it, and it's a real testament to those songs and those songwriters, because they're brilliant songs, and it's a really neat thing to get to do. And we play lots of shows each year, and I love it, and I love playing with those guys. It's really been the best group of guys I've ever played with, and they're very dear friends and terrific players.
we're in that time of year where it's Super Bowl time. You've actually been in a few Super Bowl commercials,
I have
and including you have played Jim Beam, which I believe from what I'm reading kicked off like a 2 year campaign.
it did.
So that must have been pretty exciting.
It was super cool. That was one of those moments that you alluded to or asked about earlier, where I thought, well, things could really change now, and they
Yeah.
do to an extent, but not that much. But what was really great about that was I got to work with some really great people, Hillcourt and Hoyt Van Hoytema, who does all of Christopher Nolan's. He's his cinematographer and kind of his right hand guy. It was a really neat experience, and I loved it. And yeah, the Super Bowl commercials have been fun. It's been neat. I have none this year. Um, and I'm a massive Philadelphia Eagle fan, so I'm a little crestfallen
Yeah, yeah.
Eagles this year.
That's okay. I'm a Giant fan, so you got nothing to worry about. You're fine.
Well, hey, you got Harbaugh, so I think you
Yeah,
guys will be on the way.
we're definitely moving in the right direction. But sorry, so you say you don't necessarily look to watch your stuff, but you're at a Super Bowl party.
Yeah,
That's got to be pretty cool. You're watching the game with 10, 20 friends or whatever. Now, do you do you know when your commercial's coming up? Or are you kind of told, okay, I'm sometime in the second quarter, or are you like, all right, commercial, everyone shut up. I need to listen in case I come on now. Like, what
yeah.
happens then?
And you don't know when it's coming on, and it's usually like you're drinking and having fun, and then someone will go ah, and then you look up and it's like it's sort of a surreal experience that you're
Yeah,
there and it's the Super Bowl and your friends are around, of course, giving you a somewhat of a hard time. But and our Super Bowl parties are mostly family, so
yeah.
it's cool too. But we do have quite a few people over. But you know what? I'll tell you something. We are a big serious football family. My straight job for many years was coaching high school football.
Oh, really?
Um, so I really love the sport. It's a little rough for people's health these days, but
Oh, yeah.
I
It's
still love
unfortunate.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, grew up a huge football fan. Went to Penn State, so obviously a big college football fan as well.
Oh
So,
wow, Penn State. So you were there. Let's see, man. Were you there when who was the big player when you must have been there?
I
I'm
had
gonna
some big players when I was there.
Was it Irving Fryer? No, he went to Nebraska. Wait a
No, he
minute.
was in Russia.
Yeah, wait.
My the year after I graduated, but so they were there before me. The year after I graduated was the undefeated Rose Bowl team, which was Kajana Carter, Kyle Brady, Kerry Collins.
Oh yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was there with them the year before that year. But my early years was the Sacco brothers were the quarterbacks. Two New Jersey kids.
Yeah.
And so forth. So yeah, so I've been following that. That's been an exciting program to follow.
Oh, he's a New Jersey guy too, right? He's a South Jersey guy.
Yeah,
But
yeah. That's why I mentioned it to you because he was South Jersey. Yeah,
yeah, I
I
remember
believe it was Delran. So yeah,
that was at that time. I followed college football way closer, and Penn State was always our team. So yeah, they had some Kajana Carter. Yeah, totally remember all those guys, man. Yeah, those were some good teams.
those are some good teams. And his second carry in his first exhibition game for the Bengals tore his ACL.
Remember that, man. That was tough, man. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Penn State has got a great history of football. I mean, it's amazing. What did you study at Penn State?
Well, accounting. So yeah, so we're actually an accounting firm. So you're talking to us. So we do a podcast, kind of talk to people about their careers. So yeah, and so studied accounting there, and kind of been doing the same thing for 30 something years
Cool.
from that moment on.
I love that.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a great place. But again, you want to talk about a community that rallies around football. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Kind of like Philadelphia with the Eagles. So it's very very similar. It's a very passionate fan base. Uh, a little less violent than Eagle fans, but still,
Yeah.
the passions there. They just kind of keep it to all legal channels.
Well, that's what my film Game Day was about, or is about, is a family getting together on a Sunday to watch an Eagles game.
Yeah,
Kind of the drama and the stuff that goes around with that situation. I wish that film would have had more of the humor that we initially had in it. I feel like some of the humor got kind of drained out of it, but you know, it's a funny fan base, and it's a funny. It really, I don't think I've ever seen I don't think I've ever seen more people, more of a fan base that can just hit the panic button so
Okay.
quick. I mean, when you stop and think about it, like in the last, not this year, but 3 years prior, we were in two Super Bowls in 3 years and won one of them. And if you listen to like talk radio today, I listened to it
Yeah.
briefly in Philly, and it's like people are freaking out because our offensive line coach stepped down. You know, Jeff
Yeah.
Stoutland, you would have think that, something happened with the Pope or something.
Yeah. You would think Don Shula just left your program.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, but I think that's so much, but it's, as much as Philadelphia embraces all their teams,
Mhm.
there's nothing like the Eagles. It's absolutely crazy. And most people in Philly are Penn State fans, but
That is
they
correct.
they don't have the rabid love hate for Penn State that they have for the Eagles. They don't have it for the Phillies or the Sixers
Yeah.
or even the Flyers that they do for the
Yeah.
Eagles.
No, the Eagle and the Philly fans are intense. I mean, I've gone to Philly games in a Met jersey, and I don't do it anymore. I did it when I was younger. And when my daughter goes now, because her boyfriend, they live down in Southern Jersey, and they go to Philly games because he's a big Philly guy. I said to her, do not wear. It's not worth it. Do not wear a Met shirt. And I hate to tell you not to be yourself, but it's just you just need one bad fan, and it's just not worth it. Go enjoy the game and kind of.
That's good fatherly advice, Mike. I would agree with you because I think most of the fans and most of the people are totally cool, but
Oh, of course,
you're going to run into one who isn't, and it's just not worth it, man. So
exactly.
totally. I almost got in a fight years ago in San Diego when the Chargers at the time were in.
We're still in San Diego.
Yeah, and we went to see an Eagle game down there, and this Charger fan was giving my 70-year-old mother a bunch of crap. And it was like, okay,
Yeah,
we hear about the Eagle fans, but
yeah, yeah.
so
Well, it's so funny. Like I'm a big sports fan, as big as they get, but maybe it's just as I'm older right now. I take it as okay, it's a game. I'm not playing. I have no stake in it. But even if you're gambling on the game, I really have no stake in this game. If we win, great. But my life is no different tomorrow if we win or if we lose. It's really not.
Mike, you're so right, man. And you guys had a run with the Giants, man. A lot of good teams there during the Eli period, man. You
Oh
guys,
yeah.
you guys had teams, and the Mets. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with the Mets. You guys, Alonso's gone, and then
Did you assume I was a Met fan and not a Yankee fan? That was interesting because you're correct. I am a Met fan.
okay. I'm going to. I don't know if this is true, and I'm going to defer to you on this because I know you're more expert on this than I could possibly be. But I find that most of my friends who are Giants fans are Mets fans, and most of my
That's actually incorrect.
it's incorrect. Okay, so how
I'm
does
the minority. Most Giant fans are Yankee fans.
okay,
Mets and Jets go together. Because
okay,
remember the Jets played out at Shea Stadium for a long time.
right,
So that was kind of how that is. So I'm the minority. I mean, listen, I did it because the reason I'm a Met fan, quite honestly, is my dad grew up a New York Giant fan. And when they left,
for San Francisco,
he didn't have a team. And he didn't go over to the Yankees. So then what happens a few years later, a new team comes around. So he
right.
gravitates to the new team rather than going to the rival, the Yankees, when he was a New York, a Giant fan.
So
So,
what's your dad's take on the Dodgers? Was that like couldn't do that either because they left in '62,
well, no, it was the same. It was a very similar situation. There were the Yankees, there were the Dodgers, the Brooklyn Dodgers, New York Yankees, New York Giants. He
right?
wasn't going to become a Dodger fan. He wasn't going to become. And my dad, when he was alive, was a big collectible guy, and a lot of his collections was built around the shot heard around the world game with Robbie Thompson hitting a home run for the Giants against the Dodgers. So that was a big thing. So he would have never become a Dodger fan because that was the big rivalry.
Right, right. So you're too young for this, but so your dad must have been really deep in like the Amazing Mets, the Seaver years,
Yeah,
like
I was born 3 years after the Amazing Mets. So yes, yeah.
yeah,
My
that
first my first memory of the Mets is my old neighbor used to have season tickets. Like it was a box right in the front row, and we'd go a couple times a year as company at front row, and I was at a game, and it was a doubleheader. It was against the Montreal Expos. And you'll laugh and
You're
why.
dating yourself, man. The
Yeah,
Montreal Expo.
right. And it was Twinkie night, and everyone you got a Twinkie when you came in,
Right.
and a fight breaks out of the game on the field, and the amount of Twinkies that got thrown on the field, and me being in the front row, you're getting hit by a few Twinkies. I was right at the third base. My seat was right at the end of where the tarp is on the third base line, so I'm right at the edge of the infield. So people are throwing it, not reaching. So yeah, that's my first memory. I went to a lot of games then, but that's the one memory I actually have of Twinkies flying towards me. As a fight's breaking out on the field.
So was this like Darryl Strawberry era or
Oh no, this was the Mets were bad. This would have been late '70s, so right around the time Seaver got traded to the Reds.
right?
This was, the Mets, the Mets, the top most popular Mets were Doug Flynn and Frank Tavares, Mike Jorgensen, Dave Kingman, those guys.
Kingman, man.
Yeah,
That guy was either home run or strikeout.
strikeout. Yeah,
He's so prototypical of how, like, look at Schwarber for the Phillies.
yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
Same
Yeah,
same
it's the
guy.
exact same thing.
Could
Yeah,
be,
so the
you know.
strawberry thing was about 5, 6 years later. That crew,
So
but
Rusty Staub played for both the Expos and the Mets, right?
correct. Yeah, I saw Rusty Staub play a bunch of games there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I, I
slowest guy I've ever seen. So you talk about you being slow, and I'll never forget this. This is one game, and I'm already out of time, so I'll leave you with this story. I was watching a game. I wasn't at the game, and it was like an extra inning game, and he was at that point in his career that he was only like a pinch hitter. But they ran out of players. They had to put him in the field.
oh God.
And every time a batter came up, they would move him from right field to left field, depending on who the batter was. So if it was a right-handed hitter, they'd put him in right field. If it was a lefty, they'd put him in left field. And you see him laughing every batter, he'd switch back and forth. And what happens, there's a fly ball to the side he's in. And you can probably Google this and find this on YouTube. And he runs and makes a shoestring catch, and he actually catches the ball.
I believe I have seen that footage, man.
Yeah.
And
we talk about memories that just stick with you like a movie. Like that's a sports memory that sticks to me because I can tell you where I was watching it. I remember sitting with my dad watching that, laughing that this is happening because the players are actually laughing as it's happening.
Right.
And sure enough, it to him. And for someone else, it would have been a routine fly ball. They're just standing there waiting for it. But for him, he barely got to it, but he got there and made the catch. Yeah.
Totally remember we had our version of him. His name was Greg Luzinski. And
of course.
He had no knees.
Bull, right? They called him the Bull?
But the Bull, no knees, built like a linebacker with not a single knee of the two knees. And literally they would put him on the left field line and say, you've got the line and 6 inches.
Yeah, we got the rest covered. Yeah.
So I get that, man, completely.
Yeah, that's so funny. With Dean, listen, I really enjoyed talking to you. It sounds like you've had a really blessed career so far. Very diverse. Hope it continues for you. How can people follow you and your band and all that kind of stuff on social media?
I'm Dean Simone on Facebook and on Instagram, and the band's called the Smokin Cobras. And just come on by and say, hey, I'm in those places. And like I said, I just did this RJ Decker, and I'm up for a couple other things too. And see Game Day, the film I did. I'd love to get feedback on that. And, Gringo Hunters is out there, and you can reach me through Facebook or through Instagram. And I always love to hear from people and talk to people. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, Mike. And I tell you, those were some good questions. I meant that when I said that, man. That was those were right on the mark, man.
All right, Michelle, we're going to have to make a clip of Dean saying good things about me because we don't hear those so often. So we're going to end with that. We're going to end with nice words about me. We don't get that so often. But Dean, it was a pleasure talking to you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
You too, Mike. Take care, buddy.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening to Adeptus On-Air. If you like this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. The views and opinions by the podcast speakers and guests are solely their own and do not reflect the opinions of Adeptus. This podcast provides general information only and is not intended to constitute advice.